So let's have a cozy day together. I feel like winter can be such a gift. It's just the way we look at it. Honestly, every season has its beauty and every season just has a purpose, whether it's like a physical season or just a spiritual season. I feel like there's so much overlap when it comes to a spring in our life, a summer in our life. But then there's also winter where it's just the time to retreat. And so today I'm just going to share 5 simple ways to just enjoy a winter at home. It's just how to have a cozy winter, how to really lean into the gift of what winter can be, and to not resist winter and to not be mad or frustrated that it's cold outside, but just to see it as the true gift that it is. And what does wintering really look like? What does it look like to lean into winter? I think the first part is just like, what is wintering? I mean, it's really just reframing the way we see winter. It's a time of rest. It's a time of retreat. It's a time of just being able to turn inward. I mean, really, if we look at nature and we look at the animals and we kind of live in sync with the world around us, so many animals are hibernating right now. So many animals have stored up the little harvest for this time, and they are really drawing inward and really for protection from the elements. But what would it look like if we kind of lived in sync with that a little bit? Like maybe we don't fill our social calendar to the brim during this season. It's a time to just slow down a little bit, to sit by the fire, to have longer meals, to go to bed earlier. Honestly, it gets dark earlier, to kind of follow the rhythms of the sun, to sleep in a little bit if the sun comes up later. Like, what would it look like for our bodies to just follow these rhythms instead of just feeling like we have to grind it out? It can really be such a gift. I think some ideas for just starting to learn to winter well is bringing nature inside when we feel like we don't want to go outside as much. I think our soul still longs for nature. And really, they've even shown in Japan, they call it forest bathing, but they have done research study after research study where they've shown that like stress and cortisol comes down when people get outside and in nature. Well, when that's not fully possible all the time, what would it look like if we brought some branches in, or if we have plants, or we just have life around us? So bringing as much nature inside as possible. One thing I did recently was just went and bought a bunch of eucalyptus from the store, like a seeded eucalyptus, and I strung it together like a garland on the fireplace. And that was so fun because I look up there and I see nature. There's some dried oranges and the living, drying out eucalyptus. It gives off a good smell and it's just so nice, but it's also bringing nature inside. And that can last long after Christmas is done. Like you take the red out of any garland and it can just hang around. If it doesn't have to feel Christmassy, it can in fact feel more wintry to just put greenery around. So I really love to honestly decorate for Christmas that way because it can live on January, February, and then when the seasons start to change, it starts to get a little warm outside, then I tuck all that greenery away and then I can kind of bring in some flowers and some pops of spring. I think just thinking about the 5 senses, putting a simmer pot on, you can just throw lots of different things. If you have nothing, even just some cinnamon sticks or some cranberries, a little bit of vanilla extract can be so good even with cinnamon sticks, and just having that on low boil can just really get the 5 senses going. The glow of a fire. We converted both of our fireplaces. A sweet friend came over and helped us. We took the gas line out and everything, took out the gas logs, and we just really love the sound of burning wood, the smells of it. We love just watching the fire dance. And so just the glow of a fire, it's so therapeutic. I took a groups dynamics class one year in college, and we talked about the power of fire and how, for centuries it's brought people together sitting around a fire. You think about camps, how people sit around a fire. So even just the glow of a candle and people sitting around a table can bring people together. And that is such a beautiful part of winter. It does get dark sooner, and so the glow of that candle while you wash dishes, just making things more cozy, just setting an ambiance and an environment in our home for peace. I know that we all strive to have a peaceful home, but with small kids, my house is definitely not peaceful all the time, but the simple practice of just lighting a candle while I wash dishes, or lighting a candle while I get a bath, or while I read a book, it's so soothing, and it helps me click in a little bit more to that winter mode. I think some mistakes that people make when it comes to winter is, like I said, they just try to fight the season. They want it to feel like summer or spring or fall. And we even complain about it, right? We're like, oh, it's getting cold. But really, I love the saying, it's not quite true, but there is no bad weather, just bad clothing. So maybe just as winter is starting, or maybe you find yourself in the midst of it, check in. Like, is your jacket warm enough? Are your pants warm enough? Did the kids have warm enough clothes where you can go outside? Because the last thing is, we really don't need to avoid outside. It's so good for us to get out in the cold a little every day, to get outside, still needing that vitamin D, that sunshine, just for fighting depression, honestly. It's so important that we do get outside and get some exertion going. But I think one reason we don't is we just don't have the right clothing. And so maybe getting some layers and taking the time, changing the mindset that it is worth it to spend 10 minutes layering up, even if we only make it 5 minutes outside. Like, just telling ourselves just a little bit of outside time, it's so good for us. And then when we get done with it, we can get a warm drink, we can cozy up by the candle or the fire. The reward of getting that time outside and getting really, really cold and playing hard, and then coming back inside with some apple cider or something like that. And so still forcing ourselves to get outside. And I think it's also important to just contemplate, like, we all have winters in our lives, even spiritually, where, you know, it can be a summer outside, but it can be a winter in our heart. And so there's just a time to notice the aspects of winter, and then being able to draw that parallel to the spiritual winters that we have, where we want to retreat a little bit. We need some rest. Maybe we need to get away and just go and be alone, or be with a friend, maybe planning a girls' getaway, just some time to rest from being a mama, because it's a tough journey, but it's a good one, but we just can't go all the time. And so sometimes there's a winter even in our soul. I think just learning to go with the season of winter, to remember that there is beautiful work we can do in winter. What is the gift of what we can do? Maybe it's working in the home and doing some home projects. Yeah, we can't be outside probably for 6 hours a day, but there are things that we can do only in winter. And that's one thing I realized when I read Little House on the Prairie, or I'm reading Little Britches with my kids. Like, there were things that they specifically set aside to do in the winter, because, you know, they were working out in the fields during the other seasons. And so what would it look like if there's some things we only pick up in the winter? Maybe it's embroidery, or we do lots of baking in the winter, or we paint walls in the house in the winter, or we hang art in the home in the winter. And so what would it look like to even pick up new rhythms in our lives that only happen in winter? I think it's something worth thinking about. It's kind of fun. Before you go, I hope you'll hit subscribe. My name is Lana, and this is Girl Teach Me. This whole channel is just to help you on the journey of motherhood, just to help you enjoy the process a little bit more. I know it's not easy. I send out a weekly email called Ideas for Intentionality, and in those emails, I just give you little nudges on your week to just stay intentional as a mom, to stay in the good fight. And I share some favorites that you might enjoy too. So I hope you'll go check that out, and I'll see you again soon.